Do you ever see a game with a giant marketing push, a lot of money behind the promotion, and then poof, it just disappears off the face of the earth? It's happened a lot over the years with video games, and the game doesn't even have to be bad for it to happen. There's just something about certain games that the gaming population does not grab onto, but the publishers really wanted to try and make it a thing. Welcome to Chaos Gaming, everybody. Today, we're going to be checking out some video games that were hyped up like crazy, and then poof, they just disappeared. Let me know if you bought any of these games on this list. Drop a like. Make sure you have all the notifications turned on with the bell rung. And here we go. This month's giveaway is for your choice of a PS5 or an Xbox Series X. All you have to do to enter is drop a like, make sure you're subscribed, and leave a comment with your Twitter handle so we can get hold of you telling me which one you want. The winner is picked at the end of the month. Good luck. First up is a game called Binary Domain. Raise your hand if you remember this game at all. There was a point in the late 2011s where absolutely every GameStop in America had binary domain material playing on the TV 24/7. Yeah. BD was a single-player third-person shooter, and it had a pretty cool concept. It took place in a world where global warming caused much of the planet to flood, and the human race then has to rely on robots for the workforce, which causes various sci-fi conflicts between humans and AI. Now, Sega was pushing the game hard, and the concept, like I said, it was interesting. It just wasn't the kind of thing that was going to destroy sales numbers, and the gameplay wasn't anything to write home about. At the end of the day, Binary Domain got average reviews and underwhelming sales, and there was originally going to be a sequel in the planning stages, there always is, but as of late 2020, Sega they're just radio silent about it. Who remembers when tie-in MMOs were a thing? Back in the late 2000s and early 2010s, MMOs were all the rage, and companies were pretty much using any excuse they could to get a new one out there. Now, looking back at it, I don't really understand why it was a thing, but it happened. Defiance. This was a TV show on the Sci-Fi Channel that ran from 2013 to 15, and it had a decent fan base, but it wasn't really pulling in the numbers that Sci-Fi wanted. So, naturally, they saw this as a perfect thing to base an MMO on. Apparently, I don't know why. Defiance, the MMO, launched in April of 2013. It was met with some pretty mixed reception from the beginning. It had a decent enough concept. It was also plagued, though, with technical issues in a very shallow gameplay field. There wasn't really anything that made Defiance unique compared to its competition. The game launched on Xbox 360, PS3, and PC, and although the 360 servers were finally shut down in 2020, the game's still playable on PC. I mean, it is. Steam charts say there's actually 33 people online right now. This game had an $80 million budget. 33 people left. Who remembers Street Fighter Cross Tekken? Huh? This game was hyped. Ever since the early arcade days, people have been wanting a crossover between the worlds of Street Fighter and Tekken, and they got it. The original plan was there was going to actually be two crossover games. The first would be developed by Capcom and more closely resemble Street Fighter Combat, and the second would be Namco and more closely resemble Tekken. Well, there was a massive hype train for this, and it launched in 2012. And then the world forgot about it. The game wasn't bad, but it was rushed. The combat wasn't as deep and immersive as people wanted from a Street Fighter or Tekken game. And while there was a fun spectacle of seeing these characters together, the game wasn't fun. It also didn't help that Capcom tried to preload a bunch of DLC content on your disc. They were essentially putting a paywall on the game when people bought it. Next up is Deadpool. Remember the Deadpool game? It was good. Released in June of 2013, it was developed by High Moon Studios and published by none other than Activision. It was a comedy hack and slash starring everybody's favorite anti-hero, and sure, it wasn't anything groundbreaking, but it was fun, and the portrayal of the character was perfect. So why is it on this list today, you may ask? Well, because this game was way more expensive than people realize. In fact, Deadpool is one of the most expensive games ever made, with an estimated $100 million budget. Between the licensing and the marketing, Activision went nuts on this game, which ironically ended up backfiring because you can't even buy the game anymore. That's right. This game literally disappeared because in early 2014, Activision's license with Marvel expired and the game had to be pulled from digital stores. It was relisted in mid-2016, but then delisted again the next year. So despite Deadpool being one of the most expensive games of the 21st century, you can't buy it. And hopefully Marvel will see how much people love the game and figure out some kind of deal with Activision to re-release it. At number 6, Ghost Recon Future Soldier. Now, the Ghost Recon license has fallen from grace. and it's been kind of depressing to watch. This used to be one of the poster boys for tactical shooters, but following the explosion of Modern Warfare and Black Ops, well, Ubisoft kept trying to change the Ghost Recon formula to make it more marketable, and it just didn't stick. Ghost Recon Future Soldier was an incredibly expensive game, largely because of the aggressive marketing push. Just about every retailer had merchandise for Future Soldier, and the game looked pretty cool from the early material. However, when we got our hands on it, it was forgotten. The gameplay was changed too much from the previous entities in the series for the established Ghost Recon fans to care about it, but it also wasn't changed enough for newcomers to put down Modern Warfare 3 and pick it up. Future Soldier was also riddled with technical issues, and overall, it was just a bad showing. So following the flop of that, Ubisoft gave Ghost Recon a complete makeover for Wildlands and Breakpoint, and I'll let you decide. Dead Space 3. Following the surprising success of the original Dead Space, EA really tried to turn this franchise into their next big thing, despite the fact that the horror franchises usually aren't supposed to do that, right? We probably all remember the Dead Space 2 marketing train being massive, but this was forgivable because the game was great. However, when the Dead Space 3 marketing push came around, it ended up turning a lot of people off because of all the changes being proudly advertised. Dead Space is now an action game. Dead Space is co-op now. Dead Space has microtransactions. Dead Space lets you buy weapon upgrades for real money. What? EA was incredibly out of touch with what people wanted from the Dead Space 3 game, but they were proud of themselves for changing it all, that the marketing push ended up shooting them in the foot. Dead Space 3 launched in early 2013 to mediocre reviews and disappointing sales, and it prompted EA to put the franchise on the shelf. Enter the Matrix. Now, I've mentioned this game in a few Chaos videos before, and people always seem to forget about it. In fact, I've even seen some comments in the past about wanting to try it because it looked cool. Don't try it. It's awful. It was released in 2003. It was an action game based on the legendary movie franchise. Who's ready for the reboot? Huh? Who's ready? Well, not reboot. I don't even know if it's not even a reboot. Who's ready for a new Matrix movie? Anyway, the concept was good. The gameplay and technical issues were bad. Enter the Matrix is one of the most expensive games ever made with a $67 million budget, and you adjust that for inflation right now, that's about 93 cool mil, and almost a third of that was designated for marketing. So what was wrong with the game, you may ask? Well, the publisher really wanted it to hit shelves before the theatrical release of The Matrix Reloaded, which led to a lot of corners being cut and certain parts of the game being blatantly unfinished. It was ripped apart by critics and gamers. I mean, lack of polish, missed potential, everything. And unfortunately, it sold extremely well thanks to the license. So the companies involved, they turned a profit on something that was not even finished. Next up is Dante's Inferno, one of the biggest marketing pushes in gaming history. Big budget God of War ripoff from EA, and it turned the Divine Comedy into an action movie full of demons, blood, gore, nudity. Although, to be fair, the original work had a lot of those things already. You played as a knight, of course, named Dante, descending through the 9 circles of hell in order to save his love, and along the way you collect the souls from your defeated enemies, which you can then spend on weapon upgrades and abilities to become even more bad. The game wasn't bad by any means, but it wasn't as good as God of War. A lot of people saw it for what it was, a God of War ripoff. EA pushed it as hard as they could. They threw posters, commercials, promos everywhere, every spot they could put them in. It launched in 2010 to not good reviews, and it quickly found itself in the GameStop bargain bin. Here's a recent one, Marvel's Avengers. Now, you guys probably know, I like the game, but I fully recognize why it flopped so hard. Role-playing beat-em-up, developed by Crystal Dynamics and published by Square Enix. 2 odd choices for a game of this nature, but okay. You can play as each Avenger, fight off hordes of enemies, you level up, improve your standings. You got the story. Gameplay was definitely fun for a few minutes, but the lack of content and the abundance of technical issues is what killed it. Given the fact that it was an Avengers game, Square Enix put millions of dollars in marketing, but they probably should have been putting that money into the game. It didn't run good at all. Console, PC, it didn't matter. It was repetitive. A lot of people weren't willing to push through the technical problems just to play it. Now, with more polish and care, this game could have been amazing. But as it stands right now, it's already being marked down 50% and it only came out 3 months ago. Maybe things will get better with the next-gen ports, but I'm not sure if the gaming community will rally around it a second time. And at number 1, no shockers here. A lot of EA games on this list. Anthem. Man, EA pushed Anthem even harder than they pushed Dante's Inferno, and looking at it, they probably made even less return this time. Anthem was an online looter shooter, developed by BioWare, meant to capitalize on the success of games like Destiny and The Division. The world, it was gorgeous, and the actual gameplay wasn't bad. The mission design, it was repetitive though, and shallow, and the grind was boring. Looter shooters are all about the grind, but the thing about Destiny and The Division is the grind is fun, and it felt rewarding. Anthem was not fun or rewarding. With how much BioWare was frequently screwing up the updates, the small community walked away from it pretty quickly. Now, it's been lying in limbo for about a year now. There are rumors there's going to be this huge overhaul around the corner, but I don't believe it. I have my doubts that they're going to throw any more money at this game. And there you have it, my friends. Those are 10 hyped games that went poof and disappeared. Let me know how many of these you paid money for, and I'll see you soon.